Long before Europeans arrived, North America was a densely populated geography governed by complex, long-standing societies. Hundreds of thousands of Native Americans lived across the continent, managing specific regions. But in the late 15th century, foreign explorers hit the shores. Spain, France, and Britain immediately treated the continent as an open frontier, sparking a violent, continent-wide race to claim and carve up the land for their respective monarchs. The British secured a tenuous but rapidly growing coastal foothold at Jamestown and Plymouth in the early 1600s. As these colonies expanded, they devastated local native populations through the introduction of foreign diseases and forced displacement from ancestral lands. This early colonization established a cycle that would define the next 4 centuries of American history. The acquisition of land and resources was tied directly to the systemic removal of the people who already inhabited it. By the mid-1700s, Britain attempted to tighten its financial grip over the increasingly prosperous American colonies. To pay off mounting imperial debts, the Parliament levied a series of direct taxes without giving the colonists a representative voice in government. This economic pressure sparked a unified colonial rebellion. What began as a series of protests over taxation triggered the Revolutionary War, pitting 13 disparate colonies against the full weight of the British Empire. To justify their split from the king's control, the colonies drafted the Declaration of Independence in 1776. This document formally severed their political ties and established a difficult benchmark for the new nation, the assertion that all men are created equal. Survival as a sovereign nation required a more robust structure than the one that fought the war. In 1787, they drafted a new constitution, creating a centralized government with 3 branches designed to check and balance federal power. The United States was born as a fragile coastal republic, but it was now a single, functional nation poised on the edge of a massive continent, ready for a period of explosive geographic growth. By the 1840s, a specific ideology gripped the American public. They called it manifest destiny, the belief that the United States was divinely ordained to stretch its borders from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific Ocean. The government fueled this push through massive acquisitions. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the nation's size overnight, and the War of 1812 secured American sovereignty against European interference for good. This rapid territorial expansion carried a brutal human cost. Under the Indian Removal Act of 1830, the federal government forced more than 60,000 Native Americans to abandon their homes and move west on the Trail of Tears, clearing the land for white settlers and the expansion of the southern cotton economy. As slavery expanded westward into these new territories, abolitionists and enslaved people actively resisted. Harriet Tubman became a primary conductor on the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses that aided dozens fleeing from systemic bondage. The nation's rapid geographic and economic rise was built on the systematic displacement of Native Americans and the mass enslavement of African Americans. The final push to the Pacific was secured through violence. The United States annexed Texas and intentionally entered the Mexican-American War, a conflict that ended with the U.S. seizing more than 500,000 square miles of territory, including California and the Southwest. Just as the map was being finalized, the 1848 discovery of gold in California triggered a massive, desperate migration. Tens of thousands of prospectors flooded the West Coast, accelerating the settlement of the frontier by decades. Completed in 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad physically unified the continent. It cut a cross-country journey from months to under a week, creating an unstoppable industrial engine for settlement and resource extraction. By 1850, the U.S. had conquered the continent, but this geographic triumph stretched the nation's foundational flaw to its breaking point. Every new territory added to the map forced the issue of slavery into a national spotlight that could no longer be ignored. Each new Western territory sparked bitter political wars in Washington. The admission of every state became a zero-sum game over whether it would enter the Union as a free state or a slave state, leading to localized civil wars like Bleeding Kansas. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 served as the final catalyst. Although Lincoln ran on a platform of simply containing the spread of slavery, Southern leaders viewed his victory as a direct threat to their entire economic and social order. South Carolina led a wave of secession, physically fracturing the nation. 11 southern states withdrew from the Union to form the Confederacy, tearing the United States map in half along the Mason-Dixon line. The American system of political compromise was dead. Resolving the paradox of American freedom now required a level of violence the North American continent had never seen. The American Civil War resulted in 600,000 lives lost as the Union military fought to crush the rebellion. It was a struggle to prove that a republic could stitch itself back together after such a violent internal fracture. To end the stalemate, Union generals like Ulysses S. Grant shifted to a strategy of total war. They moved beyond traditional battlefields to destroy the South's infrastructure, its railroads, and its farms, breaking the Confederacy's capacity to continue the fight. Midway through the conflict, Lincoln expanded the war's mission. By issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, he authorized the military to free enslaved people in rebel territories, aligning the survival of the United States with the total eradication of slavery. The Union won the war and passed the Reconstruction Amendments to secure the rights of the formerly enslaved. However, this progress was met with immediate betrayal. When federal troops were withdrawn in 1877, the South descended into the Jim Crow era, a century-long system of legal oppression and disenfranchisement. The physical map of the United States was successfully stitched up together from sea to shining sea. But the ideological war over who actually gets to experience the nation's promised freedom had only just begun.